What's up, guys? Today I thought we'd cover the infamous cylinder gap or Endshake on a Uberti black powder revolver, especially the 1851 Navy here, and what you can do to get this thing looking and shooting a little bit more accurately. Let's get right to it. Okay, guys, when I first bought my Uberti 1851 Navy, that's pretty much what the gap looked like between the forcing cone and the cylinder. So I was able to see a lot of daylight. It was incredibly annoying. For what I paid for the gun, I thought they would at least have that down. After having a Pieta already, they have that problem taken care of. There's no issue with it, and I guess they're pretty famous for having their act together. The issue stems from the arbor length and the recess here for it to go into the barrel frame here. So when you push the arbor in and with the cylinder removed and you twist it, the frame and the barrel meet up perfectly on a Pieta. And you can turn it the other way and twist it here. And again, they meet up perfectly. There's no overlap. The problem with Uberti is their arbor is short for whatever reason. And I've already started knocking this out, the wedge. But as you can see, if there's my fix. If you put the arbor in all the way and you twist it, they hit each other because the arbor, once it bottoms out, the barrel actually overhangs on the frame there. So when you put it together and the barrel contacts the frame here, that means the arbor is not bottomed out here. So what we have to do first of all to fix it is to get a 5mm split washer. You can get these for like less than $1, a pack of them at Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, or whatnot, and you drop it down there. And then that will make this bottom out. And that's what you want to do. So, and let me show you. With it in there now. Now when I twist it, they're just, I can feel the metal just touching. Doesn't overhang though. Same on this side. A lot better than it was. So that's the first thing you want to do is get that bottomed out artificially. Next thing you want to do is what I found. You have two options. You can drive the wedge in further. So let's put the cylinder back on. And getting that washer to lay flat down in the bottom there. So what you can do, the factory wedge, either this is a little too narrow from the factory or these holes are a little too big. So you've got a slot for the barrel and a slot for the arbor in there. And the wedge needs to touch this side of the arbor slot and this side of the barrel slot when it goes in, and that brings them closer together. And I've already modified this so it's not going to work as it should, since I already found the fix. I can't reverse the fix at this point. But you can drive this in further. So typically when everyone has these wedges in, they push them in just far enough for the little hook to overhang right there. So that hook popped out. So they have it right there. What I found before I made my fix is I had to hit this with either a rubber mallet, or I always use my Leatherman rebar with the leather, and I just leather sheath, and I just hit that over, strike that all the way till this bottomed out against the retaining screw here. Bottomed out against that retaining screw. So this was sticking way out, but that drove more of the wedge in and brought this closer together. What I ended up doing is taking the wedge out, and I will show you in a little clip what I did next. All right, guys, how I adjusted the wedge here. This is a poor man's anvil. This is just my garage floor, the cement here. This is the little crack in it, and the wedge looks like this. So I didn't want to break it, so I ended up setting this little part here that dips down in there, in the crack. And I at first used a punch, but I think the punch is softer metal than this, so I wasn't getting anywhere by doing that. So I ended up merely taking the hammer and hitting the wedge, not in the middle, just on the ends here. And I would do it a little harder than that, but I already have this where I want it, so I'm not going to adjust it anymore. But I wasn't bringing the hammer up hardly at all. Probably about that hard. I'd do it about 5 times on each side, and then I would go and reassemble the gun, check. If I still had a big gap, then I'd come out here and do it about 5 more times. I think I had to do about 25 to 30 hits on each side to reduce that cylinder gap by about 50%. So again, don't go overboard, because once you make this too wide, you run the risk of getting this wedge stuck in there to where you can't get it out, or it just won't fit in general, and then you're going to be hitting it the other way, and you're more liable to break this. So this is kind of a throwaway piece anyways. It's a replaceable piece. I don't care about the fit and finish. To me, it's a field gun. So I don't care if I ding it up. And I don't have an actual anvil, so this is what I have to work with, and this is what I got. All right, now that you guys have seen how I widened the wedge there, once I just insert it in now, what it used to be was I could easily put a .012 or .011 feeler gauge in between the forcing cone and the cylinder without even trying. It was ridiculous. But as it is right now, I can't notice any difference with the naked eye that I made with this wedge. But it was minuscule enough, though, that when I just put it in and it's just hooking, there's no way I'm going to fit the .011 in there. I think at this point, let me try a .007. Just put it on half cock. I pull the cylinder back. I can't even get a .007 in. Try .006. It catches. .005. Yep. So more than a 50% improvement just by doing that, by making the wedge just slightly wider and putting that 5mm split washer in here. That did wonders. Now, keep in mind that aesthetically, how you can fix this as well is if you replace the factory nipples or the cones. So right now I am on a factory nipple, and you can see that there's a little bit of a gap. And that's going to be the .05 right there. I bet I can't put a .06. No, doesn't want to go. Even if I pull this back, doesn't want to go. So, like I said, aesthetically, you'll see the gap when you have the factory nipples on. If you switch to a slick shot aftermarket nipple, these actually are a little bit longer. So when the hammer face sits down on them, like you'll see right now, since it sits up further towards the hammer's pushing on it, and it's got that spring action. So now you don't see the gap at all. No daylight through there. And that's fine, because it's still smooth, slick, it's not catching. So aesthetically, if you switch the aftermarket nipples to a slick shot nipple, you'll get rid of that gap. Functionally, though, it's going to be the same, because once the hammer's off of it, it doesn't matter if it's a factory nipple or a slick shot nipple, the gap's going to be the same. If you push the cylinder back, you're still going to get the .005 once it's fixed. So if you just switch out the nipples and you don't do the other 2 fixes, you're not going to solve anything. You're just going to make it look nicer when you're holding it in your hand. But when you go to shoot, effectively, you haven't changed this gap whatsoever. So you have to do those 2 fixes. These are just the amateur ways of fixing it. You can go on forums online and look this problem up. And there's guys that are way more educated on how to fix this, and There's a guy out there who can tune this up, I'm sure, for a reasonable price or whatnot. But I just wanted to keep it real, do it myself, and that's what I found was the easiest thing for me, is just widen this wedge and put a 5mm split washer in there. Took care of that, and then aesthetically I put the aftermarket nipples on there. That helps with cap jam, and it also takes away that gap just that you can see right there. As soon as I switch it on to one of those, gap's gone. So hopefully this helps, and I hope Uberti gets their act together, catches up with Pieta, and that'd be nice because I would really like to get more of their products. And but the fit and finish, if you've watched my other video on the difference between the two brands, the fit and finish, I think I'll always get Uberti, even though it requires a lot more gunsmithing. It just feels like a better gun to me. But anyways, hope you enjoyed the video, and leave any comments, questions below, and hopefully I'll be able to answer them. And if not, maybe somebody else will. All right, guys, there's one thing I forgot to add. When I put the split washer in here and I widened the wedge just ever so slightly, what happened is when I put it on half cock and I went to turn this, it was catching. And when I looked at the daylight between it, I was able to see that the bottom portion of the forcing cone actually was closer to the cylinder and catching it than the top portion. So I could put in a feeler gauge and it would always go in about halfway and it would catch. It wouldn't go all the way. So what I had to do was remove the wedge. And always remember with these, if you ever have to do any filing or whatnot, that pull the wedge a little more. There we go. If you have to do filing, you can't put metal back on. So I had to take a file. I actually found it easier with more of a rasp here. So anyways, I took one of these and I just touched up the bottom. I would do about 5 strokes this way, 5 strokes this way on the bottom portion. Reassemble, check. And I had to do that over and over and over again just to get it perfect, because again, you can't put metal back on. Same thing with the wedge when you're hammering it. Here, only do a few hits at a time and then assemble everything and check, because once you make it too wide, then it's not going to fit. So same concept. So just a little bit at a time, reassemble everything, check. Take it apart, do it again, reassemble, check. And hopefully that takes care of all of the issues that you have with your cylinder gap. And thanks again for watching.